On this edition of Early Look, I'm going to be previewing the vacant light heavyweight title fight headlining UFC 327 in Miami, April 11th. My name is James Lynch. If you've never watched the show before, I'm going to go through a bunch of different stats and intangibles, and then I'm going to give you my prediction for this fight at the end. Let me know in the comments after you're done watching today's video what your prediction is for this fight. Would love to hear from you. Again, going to be the main event, fighting for Alex Pereira's vacant title. Of course, Pereira moving up to fight Cyril Gane on the White House. Let's do a quick tail of the tape between these two. Jiri Prochazka, 32-5-1 record. Carlos Ulberg, 13-1, 33-35, 6'3" to 6'4", 80-77. So Jiri going to be a little bit longer. He's also a few years younger than Carlos Ulberg. I think we all kind of forget that Carlos Ulberg, mid-30s here, which is kind of interesting. Let's start first with the former light heavyweight champion, Jiri Prochazka. This is a 5-round fight, like I mentioned, for the vacant title. April 11th at the Kisea Center in Miami. So you can look at it there. Jiri Prochazka's got 28 career knockouts. He's got 3 submissions, 1 decision. He's the former champ. He's currently ranked number 2 in the light heavyweight division. Like I mentioned, they're 33 years old, 6'3" with an 80-inch reach. So he's 2 years younger and will have a 3-inch reach advantage in this fight. He's the first Czech champion in UFC history. He's got fight of the night 2 times against Dominic Reyes and Glover Teixeira. He's got performance of the night 5 times against Volkan Ozdemir, Dominic Reyes, Alexander Rakic, Jamal Hill, and Khalil Roundtree. Did not have an amateur debut, went straight to the pros way back in April of 2012, made that UFC debut after a pretty long career in Ryzen, which we forget about, back in July of 2020. Jiri is currently 6-2 in the UFC with 6 stoppage victories. Some notable wins include Volkan Ozdemir, Dominic Reyes, Glover Teixeira, Alexander Rakic, Jamal Hill, and most recently Khalil Roundtree. His only losses are against Alex Pereira in the UFC, both knockout losses. He's had a few layoffs in his career. If we go from the Volkan Ozdemir to Dominic Reyes fight, there was a 295-day layoff. Going from Reyes to Glover, huge layoff there. 407 days. Going from Glover to Alex Pereira, there was a 518-day layoff. Going from Pereira to Rakic, there was a 154-day layoff, so a bit quicker there. Going from Pereira to Hill, there was a 203-day layoff. Going from Hill to Roundtree, there was a 290-day layoff. And then going from Roundtree to Ulberg, just a 158-day layoff, the second lowest of his career. Like I said, going from Pereira to Rakic was the quickest turnaround that he's had, but only by a couple extra days. 4 days, actually, if my math is correct here. Yuri's never been in any close fights. His only fight that, he's yet to go the distance in his UFC career, so don't have to talk about controversial fights. The only major injury he had was back in 2022. He had that shoulder injury, which took him out of the equation when he won the title over Glover Teixeira. He had to vacate the title, and then he ends up coming back a year and a half later, I should say. So that's something to keep in mind. Let's go look at Jiri's stats here. Very interesting. Significant strikes landed per minute is 5.69. His striking accuracy is at 55%, so he does hit the mark just over 50%. Striking defense is at 45%. That's a pretty glaring stat, but that's, you know that if you watch Jiri. He does get hit a lot, but he hits to get a hit type thing. His takedown average is 0.51. His takedown accuracy is at 60%. Takedown defense is at 68%, although I don't know if we're going to see any takedowns in this fight. We'll see. And his sub average is 0.2. So that's everything you need to know about the former champion, Jiri Prochazka. Let's take a look across the way at his opponent, the Black Jag, Carlos Ulberg. So you can see Ulberg, 13-1 record. He's got 8 knockouts, 1 submission, and 4 decisions. Currently ranked number 3 in the light heavyweight division. He's 34 years old, 6'4" with a 77-inch reach. So he'll have a 1-inch height advantage in this fight. That's about it. Trains out of City Kickboxing. He's got fight of the night 1 time against Kennedy and Cheku. He's got performance of the night 3 times against Ihor Porrea, Alonzo Menefield, and most recently Dominic Reyes. Did not have an amateur debut, just like Jiri. Went straight to the pros in August of 2011. He actually had his debut earlier than Jiri did. He made his pro UFC debut in March of 2021, so shortly after Jiri, right? Because Jiri was 2020, I think. Yeah. And he ended up losing that fight, and that's the only time he's lost is against Kennedy and Cheku. It's kind of one of those weird fights that you kind of look back on, and he was a big favorite in that fight. I think he was like moderate favorite, minus 235. So something to kind of keep in mind there. He's 9-1 in the UFC. He's got 6 stoppage victories. Some notable wins include Alonzo Menefield, Volkan Ozdemir, Jan Blachowicz, and Dominic Reyes. He hasn't had any major layoffs in his career. You can see for the most part, pretty active overall, though did have a bunch of opponent switch-ups here and there. He's had... he doesn't have any notable losses, like nothing against Kennedy and Cheku, but that's not really like a notable loss, but it is the one loss he has in his career. Ulberg has 1 close fight. Let's go talk about it right now. That's the fight with Jan Blachowicz, where, it was close. He's had a couple decision fights, but this was the one that was probably the most controversial. So again, if you go to MMAdecisions.com like we are right here, you can click on Carlos Ulberg beating Jan Blachowicz. And if you look here, media was kind of split on this one. The majority did feel like Ulberg won 29-28. The majority did take Ulberg here. But 4 media members thought that Jan Blachowicz should have got the nod 29-28 as well. So it's 8-4 overall as far as the media votes. So yeah, just wanted to mention that because some people kind of look at that fight and think maybe it could have gone the other way. Look at his stats here. Significant strikes landed per minute is actually higher than Jiri at 6.54. His striking accuracy is at 55%. His striking defense is better than Yuri's. It's at 51%. Takedown average is 0.55. Takedown accuracy is at 60%. Takedown defense is at 85%. We'll see if Jiri shoots for a takedown, although not too sure. And the sub average is 0.2. Let's go take a look at the odds. They do have Jiri favored almost 2-1, but mostly actually not 2-1, closer to -150 around there. You see like -146, -135 is where people are going. If you look on Tapology, where the fans can vote, majority of people taking Jiri. It's much wider here. 85% of people taking Jiri, 15% taking Carlos Ulberg. And if we go over to AI using Fight Signal, which is an app I like using for AI predictions, if we go down here to if we click on events and we go to upcoming, and we look down here at, whoops, where am I looking here? Prochazka Ulberg. And I'll probably do a full AI predicts video on this fight eventually. But yeah, they do favor Jiri, but not by much, 51.27% compared to 48.73. So AI does like Jiri. So again, the odds like Jiri, Tapology likes Jiri, Fight Signal likes Jiri. So who do I like? That's the big question here. That's why I'm doing this video. I am going to be going with Jiri Prochazka in this fight, but I'm going to take him a little bit later in this one. I think it's going to be a 4th round TKO victory over Jiri Prochazka. Okay, couple things about Jiri that I got to mention here. First and foremost, we got to mention the fact that his last fight is one of the best comeback fights in UFC history. And if you look at the stats here, actually, I don't even need to type it in anymore. If you look at the fight with Cleo Roundtree, look at these stats here. So he does end up outlanding Cleo Roundtree, but look at these rounds. Okay, so Cleo's in blue. Outlanded Jiri in the first round, outlanded Jiri in the second round, and then Jiri came back to win the fight. So that is notable because Jiri was losing those first 2 rounds in that last fight. So that was, something that we do have to make note of. But why am I taking Jiri in this fight? Well, 88% of Yuri's wins are by knockout, 28 total. That's a stat I cannot ignore. He barely wins by submission, and he never really goes the distance ever. He's got 1 decision win, but it hasn't been in the UFC. Yuri's only been knocked out by 1 guy in the weight class, and that is Alex Pereira. I put Pereira in the same categories like an Ilia Topuria, the same way we saw Topuria knock out Max Holloway and Alex Volkanovski. Like, there are just certain fighters that have that death touch. You guys, Bloodsport reference there in case people know, but Pereira's sort of like the exception to the rule. Like, he's just got ungodly knockout power, right? And I bring this up because I don't think there's been fighters that have been close, like Dominic Reyes did. I think Jiri was out for a bit when he fought Reyes, and he was able to come back and get the win. Cleo Roundtree wasn't able to knock him out. Jamal Hill wasn't able to knock him out. Glover's got some knockout power. Reyes has some knockout power, wasn't able to get it done. I bring this up because I think there's one guy that can finish Jiri, and I think that's Alex Pereira. Carlos Ulberg has the ability to finish this fight. Sure, he's got knockout power, but I wouldn't put him in the same tier as Pereira. So if you're not going to knock out Jiri, you're going to have a pretty hard time winning this fight. I think Jiri is one of the most durable fighters on the roster. Amazing chin. Again, his striking defense eventually will catch up to him. I don't think it's in this fight, though. So I mentioned it there that, and if you look at Ulberg, he's got, 8 knockout wins, but let's look at recently. Dominic Reyes, knocked him out. I'll give him that one. But you also look at Reyes. He's been knocked out a handful of times here. 4 knockout losses already in the UFC. Couldn't finish Jan. That fight was close for comfort. Couldn't finish Volkan Ozdemir, who we've seen get finished. That to me is one where if you're this, great knockout artist, you probably finish him. Did knock out Alonzo Menefield. I'll give him that. Submitted Jung. Knocked out Ior Porea, who's not even that great of a fighter, and I don't even think in the UFC anymore. Knocked out Nikolai. My point is that he's knocking out lower level opposition, but when he gets that step up, he's not really able to do it. And I wouldn't put Reyes in that category because we know Reyes has, has had a history of getting knocked out. Jan knocked him out. Jiri knocked him out. Again, this is kind of what I look at here. Whereas when you do get that step up, because to me, the best opponents he's fought to this date, Jan's definitely the best opponent he's fought. He couldn't finish him. Now, easier said than done. Jan's not an easy guy to take out, but I bring this up because I don't think Ulberg's as devastating of a knockout artist as Pereira is. And to me, this is going to turn into 2 strikers, and I'll take the guy that's tough to finish in Jan Blachowicz. Now, maybe you could say the same thing about Ulberg. He's only got 1 knockout loss, and it was over, it was 5 years ago against Kennedy and Ncheku. Ulberg's gone the distance twice in his last 3 fights. Ulberg's also got 51% striking defense, so he does get hit a little bit. Obviously, Yuri's numbers are a lot lower. And you know, again, you could also look at the fact that Jiri is younger and he's going to have a reach advantage in this fight. That's another thing I like. Really, to make this as simple as possible, I just don't think Ulberg has really wowed me that much with the opposition he's fought. Like, he goes out there and knocks out Volkan, or he knocks out Jan Blachowicz. I'm looking at this fight a little bit differently. And I know you can't always use MMA math, but like, I don't know how good or how bad Ulberg is. Maybe he is good. Maybe this is the fight where he rises to the occasion. But what I've seen so far, I don't get the sense he's on Jiri's level. I think Jiri is one of the best in the world. I think he just happened to run into Pereira, and outside of that, he's looked outstanding. Yes, the Khalil fight was a bit concerning that he was getting outstruck in that, but that also showed that Khalil couldn't knock him out either. Right. And I would argue that Khalil's got better knockout power than Carlos Ulberg too. So kind of what I'm getting at here is that I think it's going to be so hard to take out Jiri. Yes, you've got 5 rounds to do it, but I think Jiri survives whatever early onslaught that Ulberg brings him. And then I think when it goes into deep waters, Juri's been there before, right? Remember the Glover Teixeira fight? We saw him go into deep waters in that one. That was a fight he was actually losing, if you remember. Ends up getting the submission in the 5th round. But we know Jiri can go 5 rounds. I don't know if Ulberg can. We haven't seen that cardio. We haven't seen him go that long. So again, I give the experience and cardio edge to Jiri in this fight. And so I think Jiri gets a 4th round finish here. I think Ulberg does tire a bit. I think it's going to be like the Khalil Roundtree fight, although a little bit later, where Jiri will start to pour it on as Ulberg fades a little bit. And again, I don't know if Ulberg's cardio is bad, but I can also know that he's probably not going to be able to keep up the pace with Jiri because he has not fought anyone like Jiri before. So Jiri, 4th round TKO finish. He gets it done, and Jiri becomes the champion yet again. So let me know in the comments what your prediction is for this fight. Would love to hear from you. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. This is Early Look. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.